because confidence does matter, but you don't need six pack abs to have confidence. And I also always share the fact that there's a difference between body confidence and actually having confidence. The people we work with are already successful on paper, but they're also confident. The confidence they possess, they're often missing the actual body confidence piece. And that's what I want to encourage you to think about.
Welcome to the Unstoppable Podcast with your host, Jonny Pierce. In this podcast, we are going to cover all you need so that you can develop unstoppable confidence and build an unbreakable mindset. And we will make sure that everything you listen to is unforgettable. We will dissect the lessons from the people you want to hear from, and you have access to this completely free of charge. And if you like it, don't forget to share it with your friends, and I will see you on the inside.
Welcome back to episode 19 of the Unstoppable Podcast. This is the second of a three-part series called the Peak Performance Series, and it's designed to help high performers and business owners look, feel and perform at their best, even while they're at their busiest in both work and at home. And in the last episode, we covered the hidden cost of operating at 70% and how you might be missing out on 30% of your potential. And if you haven't already, be sure to tune into episode 1 because it follows on nicely into this episode. And this series is here to help you understand how you can use health as a competitive edge in business. So many people leave the health and the performance end of things on the table, and they're probably leaving financial reward on the table. They're probably leaving the ability to feel good on the table. And there's so much to be said about performing at your best. This episode is called Built for the Boardroom. And I'm going to give you training, nutrition, and lifestyle strategies that you can implement straight away after this 15-minute episode to go and change the game straight away. I'm not willing to share this value and share this information for you to go away and implement nothing. Don't be a professional note taker. Don't listen to this episode and implement nothing. Make sure you use the strategies in this episode to your advantage, because information is great, but implementation is what we're looking for. So I'm going to provide you with the information and the tools and the resources, but you need to implement and you need to go all in and actually perform like the leader you are. The first thing I wanted to cover in this episode is the problem with the beach body mentality. There was a time in my life where all I focused on was aesthetics. And at the time I was still growing my business. I wanted to look incredible. I wanted to be really lean. I wanted to be really shredded. And I wanted to have the beach body that everybody is craving. But I soon realized that it was all going to come crashing down thanks to me not actually thinking about the one key ingredient to me driving my business forward, which was my performance, my energy, and how I was going to feel day to day. I think most high performers, whenever it comes to their training, default to the old school bodybuilding style training. At the end of the day, you're not trying to be a bodybuilder, so you shouldn't have to train like one. You need time efficient training that actually delivers maximum results on the other side, because whenever it comes to your goals as a high performer, a business leader, they need to be around peak performance, not just about getting shredded. Because confidence does matter, but you don't need six pack abs to have confidence. And I also always share the fact that there's a difference between body confidence and actually having confidence. The people we work with are already successful on paper, but they're also confident. And the confidence they possess, they're often missing the actual body confidence piece. And that's what I want to encourage you to think about. So whenever it comes to some statistics, I love backing up what I say with real life stats. And I'm going to share some stats. I'm going to read them off the screen here, and I think they're important. And these are stats to reinforce the importance of you actually making these shifts. So the first statistic is leaders with consistent exercise habits are 23% more productive and report 30% better focus. And that came from the Harvard Business Review in 2022. The second statistic is executive fatigue is linked to 20 to 25% reduction in cognitive performance. And that came from the McKinsey Health Institute in 2023. The third and the final statistic that I want to share with you today is that even 20 minutes of exercise improves information processing speed and working memory. And that came from the Journal of Clinical Psychology in 2020. So clearly, this is going to have an impact. This is clearly going to make a difference. In this episode, I'm going to share the exact strategy that I've used to help over 800 high performers and business owners just like you look, feel, and perform at their best. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Our clients aren't bodybuilders. They're leaders, founders, and execs. And our ability to train for performance is the most important thing. It's not about unrealistic approaches where we expect our clients to train 5 and 6 days a week and eat like a rabbit. It's not realistic for someone that's performing at their best. So whenever we cover these key principles, make sure you take some notes, make sure you write some stuff down on the things that you're going to implement first. So there's some key principles whenever it comes to training. And you need to think about the amount and the volume of training. And you want to think about what's the minimal amount of training that's going to allow me to get maximal return. So I would always say if you can do 3 to 4 high quality training sessions per week at around 30 to 40 minutes, you're going to be in a good position. And you want to break these sessions down like this. So you want to have a strength focus. You want to prioritize strength training. You want to prioritize weights. So many people think that they're just going to do HIIT classes or do some cardio crazy workout or some ab blaster that they found on the internet, and it's not actually going to give you the reward or the results you want. Weight training is going to be the best way to lose weight, build muscle, improve your shape, and improve your longevity. I always say if you don't use it, you'll lose it. So strength training is going to be a vital component, and you want to prioritize that because it's going to improve how you look, but it's also going to improve your posture. The health benefits of actual strength training are incredible and it's often overlooked. You want to also have some cardio in there too. Your heart's a muscle, so people forget that your heart's a muscle, so they just bang into the weights because they're the one that's promoted the most. But your heart is also a muscle, so you want to train that muscle and put yourself in a position where you are challenging yourself. I can't remember the exact statistic, but there's a crazy percentage of people over 40 will never sprint again in their life, which I thought is crazy. And it's something that we should be adding in. And you also want to look at microdosing your movement. So having small windows of movement every single day. So it might be after you have a meal, you go for a short 10-minute walk to help it to digest. You might have little breaks throughout the day where you can do some mobility or maybe even get a standing desk. I got a standing desk in recent years and it was a game changer for my overall posture because even how my posture is now, I'm leant over this laptop. We want to be standing upright a little bit more. So I've got this standing desk for those long days on the laptop. So I want to make sure I use that to my advantage and it's something that you can use to your advantage. So that's whenever you think about training, and an example weekly schedule with your training could look something like this. So this is Monday through Sunday, how you can break down your training whenever you're short on time and you're your busiest. So Monday session can be an upper body strength training. So you're in the gym, you're doing some weights, something like that. Then Tuesday can be some zone 2 cardio. So it's almost slow, steady. You're trying to keep your heart rate a little bit lower than going right up to your max heart rate. And you're going to prolong that for a prolonged period of about 40 to 60 minutes, depending on what you have time for. So this could be on the bike or it could be on the run. The bike's great because it takes the strain off your joints. Running's a real craze at the minute. And sometimes running before you can walk, that old saying, is not a good idea. It's going to have a big strain on your joints and things like that. So make sure you're thinking about that. Wednesday could be a lower body strength workout. So some strength work in the gym. Thursday could be a rest day. And Friday could be full body strength again. So full body session. Might start with a leg exercise in the gym and then follow on with some upper body movements and finish with some accessory movements and potentially some conditioning where it's kind of short, sharp cardio conditioning stuff, maybe on the rower or the ski erg or something like that. And then at the weekend, you can get out for the odd walk and things like that to get the steps up. But that's exactly how you could apply or approach your training. From a nutrition perspective, whenever it comes to performing at your absolute best, you need to fuel your body for performance instead of eating for convenience. So forget about this crazy diet that you're starving yourself on just to lose a few pounds, because that's going to tank your energy in the long term. Think about actual meals and nutrition strategies that give you energy, that actually fuel you until your next meeting or your next meal. They're the things that are going to actually make the difference, have the impact, and get you to where you want to be. So some strategies that you want to apply, I'll give you 5 in this particular episode. The first one is protein first every single meal. So aim for 30 to 40 grams of protein every single meal that you have. So that's an easy way to break it down. A good general rule of thumb with the protein and how much protein you should aim for. So aim for 2 grams of protein per kilo of body weight on the scale. So let's say you weighed 75 kilograms, you roughly want to look at about 150 grams of protein. And if you break that down using the protein first with every meal strategy, you could look at 40 grams of protein in your breakfast, 40 in your lunch, and 40 in your dinner. That takes you to 120 grams of protein. Then maybe you could have a snack outside of that, the likes of a protein yogurt, a protein bar, something like that. Might be another 20, 30 grams of protein. That'll take you nicely to your 150 grams of protein if you weigh 75 kilo, by the way. Second principle or strategy or system that you can implement is think about carbohydrates and have carbohydrates when you need them. There's slow release carbohydrates and there's fast release carbohydrates. So you might need fast release carbohydrates like a squares bar, a bit of fruit, a handful of sweets, something like that just before you train to give you that quick burst of energy that you need. Then slow release carbohydrates are like oats, potatoes, pasta, rice, wraps. They're the things that are going to give you slow release energy throughout the day. And believe it or not, the slow release carbs that you eat on one day are going to fuel your performance for the following day. So think about that. And that's why people do carbohydrate loading for long distance events, etc., etc. That's important. And so many people think they need to cut out carbs. They actually don't. Think about healthy fats in your diet. Healthy fats can really help your cognitive performance. They can also help increase your testosterone levels. So things like nuts, oily fish, eggs, avocado, olive oil, all those things are going to be great for you. The fourth strategy is to think about when you're at your hungriest and save or look at your food in that way where you have food available to you at that time. So many people think they just need to do what everyone else is doing, but they find themselves really hungry at breakfast. So fasting's a big thing where a lot of people are skipping breakfast and only eating between a certain window. And this can be fine, this can be good, but it's important to think about your life and when you feel you're hungriest. You might feel you're hungriest at breakfast, which means breakfast is going to be an important meal for you. And then the fifth strategy, easy strategy, is your hydration strategy. So 500 milliliters of water upon waking, so before you have your first cup of coffee in the day, and then think about 2 to 3 liters throughout the day outside of that initial glass of water. And again, in all these episodes, I want to share real life client examples. But one of our clients, Gavin, for example, he was a director in a high stress industry and he was doing a lot of HIIT classes. So he was getting up at 6 a.m. Then he was skipping breakfast and he was trying to do as much as he could every single day. He thought that was the way to do it. He thought he was being disciplined, and then he was crashing by 2 p.m. and relying on coffee to get through the rest of the day. Then we focused on changing his training. We implemented a smart strength training split. We added some walking to clear his head between meetings. We built out a high protein, high performance meal strategy that actually allowed him to have consistent energy without having to track every single calorie. And fast forward 10 weeks, he had dropped over a stone of body fat, his energy was better than ever, and his focus had improved in work, so he was getting more done in business. It was an absolute game changer. I think a lot of people actually listening to this episode and listening to this podcast in general don't actually subscribe to the podcast yet, because we often get thousands of views on an episode, but we've only got 400 subscribers. So it would help me greatly if you're able to subscribe to this podcast. It's a simple click of a button, but it helps more than you could ever imagine. So please do subscribe if you're getting value from these episodes, and you'll be the first to know whenever we launch part 3 of this particular series. I always like questions. Questions are the steering wheel of the mind, and it's important to ask yourself good quality questions. And my question for you today is this: is your current training and nutrition plan helping you look, feel, and perform at your best? Or is it keeping you stuck? Whenever you think about that question, the answer maybe is it's worked in the past, but it's not necessarily working now. Or maybe you're absolutely crushing it and you're thriving. Or maybe training and good quality food is the last thing in your mind. You fell out of the way of it over the last few years as you've been pushing your career or your work or your business, and it feels like you can never get back to it. Apply these easy systems and it will change the game. If this episode was useful, please do tune in to episode 3 whenever it comes out. And the third and the final part of this series is going to be why health is your ultimate business strategy. So I look forward to seeing you in the episode, and I will chat to you soon.